Rome 2 released in 2013 to an unprecedented launch that could basically be described in the history of Total War as the biggest launch ever. It had over 1 million sales in terms of recopies, and it was the most hyped game of Total War history. Now that we examine Total War Rome 2 in 2021, I ask the question, what is the legacy of Rome 2? Why did Rome 2 flop so badly in 2013? And what has changed in Rome 2 since its launch? More will be covered in this spotlight video of why you should get Rome 2 in this Black Friday sale on Steam. Let's start at the beginning. Rome 2 released with a absolutely fantastic trailer for the Rome 2 Siege of Carthage pre-alpha, and we all know how that went.
Sega.
Carthage makes a mockery of Rome. They must be punished.
Those walls can withstand any attack.
Scipio will not fail.
Fire! This will never end. They will never surrender.
Take those walls!
Gods, what have we done?
So as you can see, the pre-alpha siege never lived up to its hype, and sieges in Rome 2 still suffer from a lack of siege escalation, and they also suffer from a lack of, well, at least a superior tone. I would really love it if CA could add a superior tone to some of the sieges, like a photo mode that you have in Troy, except you can have different. The main thing is, Rome 2 doesn't have a photo mode editor like Troy that lets you play in settings that you want to play in, with graphical settings, etc. This needs to be added, like seriously. But the main thing was that Rome 2 also showed us many trailers. It promised playing as Hannibal in the Grand Campaign, or playing as Cleopatra in the Grand Campaign, which of course never materialized. And while Jeff Von Dyke didn't make the soundtrack for this game, it would have been epic. And if you're wondering, yes, I am using a couple of graphics mod to emulate. You can obviously see within the Siege of Carthage, a lot of things were cut, and many features shown in the trailer just weren't brought into this Siege of Carthage. But Rome 2, from the start, had a gigantic campaign map. You see, the basic premise of Rome 2 is simple. It's simple enough that even a new player can get involved into the campaign. You start as Rome. Let's start with this example. And you have to conquer the entire world. Where do you start? Do you get rid of the annoying Carthaginians? Do you get rid of the greedy Greeks, or basically the suck in Syracuse, Epirus, and Athens, and Sparta? As Rome, you have to deal with all of these factions. And there is a gigantic campaign map, one of the most gigantic campaign maps you will see in a Total War game. Now, if we play as Rome, Rome is OP in everything. Rome is perhaps one of the most best and strongest factions that you will find in Rome 2 Total War. But you also have enemies to deal with. What I recommend is using a spy to track enemy army informations, or leading them to sabotage their supplies, which can help you in the most. You will get events throughout the campaign and traits to select from, for which your general and your army will benefit from. You will be fighting large armies. You will not be fighting any easy armies to fight with. Well, you get that at the start of the campaign. While the diplomacy is a bit lackluster, it serves its purpose, but it's not entirely the best that you will ever get in a Total War. That being said, you do get many events, and you do get new event art, which has been carried on from DLCs, and you also get the family tree, where you have to secure loyalty of the family houses and parties. You will also fight in epic battles and epic engagements. I'm using a couple of mods, but if you want the scale, if you want the true scale of what Rome 2 can deliver, then this is the cinematic Rome 2 scale that it can give. One of the best features about Rome 2 was the cinematic camera, which you press insert. You can easily lose battles by playing this battle. Seriously. It's one of the most fun and intensive unit cameras that have been ever added into the Total War series, and I think was absolutely revolutionary in its approach. Throughout the campaign, your army will win and you will hear their immersive battle sounds, etc. The battle system is very good, plus the politics system is good. But there isn't enough immersiveness that's needed, and that's what I would really want to see more of. Rome 2 spans decades of history. You could play as Rome and maybe not face Parthia at all. You could face Bactria, you could face Egypt. But if you want to truly simulate the Roman-Parthian wars, you can definitely try out the Imperator Augustus campaign, which is highly recommended in my opinion. However, it lacks the events and story-style events from Empire Divided. But if you want your true Roman versus Parthian war, then this is the one for you. But this is just a taste, because Rome 2's DLC spans from basically the rise of Rome to its imperial era, more or less, to the crisis of the 3rd century. And Rome 2 has a lot of great things going for it. You know, as I played this Parthian campaign, I was literally attacked by the Dahe and Armenia quite often. The diplomacy system is something left to be desired. But you also have the politics tree, which you can use to roleplay your own events. But I don't like that. I would have preferred if there were more faction-specific events. But you know, you can play as Parthia and you can fight the Romans. You can fight them in glorious detail. More or less, you will be fighting them in so many ways. You can use the cataphracts and horse archers. The variety is immense. Let me summarize the legacy of Rome 2 in a nutshell. It's an epic, gigantic campaign with a huge variety of factions that will be impossible to simply record in one video. Rome 2 can simply be played even without DLC, even if you just like playing as Rome and fighting against all the factions of the world. Plus, Rome 2 is more historically accurate than Rome 1, I believe in many degrees. Am I saying that Rome 1 and Rome 2 are basically worthy of the same title? I wouldn't say so. I would say that both are great titles in their own respective eras. And I would definitely say that Rome 1 was fantastic for including immersion, for including a great soundtrack, while Rome 2 has a sort of weak orchestral soundtrack that could have been much better, like Attila's soundtrack. Being said, I do think Rome 2 definitely has a lot of advantages over Rome 1. For example, bigger campaign, gigantic battles. There is immersiveness between soldiers when they fight. In fact, there was also this type of immersiveness when you played Rome 1. You could hear your soldiers hearing out insults and stuff, but it wasn't very widespread, from what I remember. Now, some players will never accept Rome 2 as a great game, and that's perfectly understandable. You can keep that opinion. But in my opinion, I have played Rome 2 thousands and thousands of hours on modded games and some vanilla. I think that Rome 2 has fantastic mods like Divided Impera, Wars of the Gods mods, and many such others, including New World, including many others. Rome 2 has left an enduring legacy. It is simply because when I remember Rome 2 was being praised by the fans, we were all praising it. Every single one of us was loving this. There were two incidents that I remember during the Rome 2 marketing campaign. One was a forum thread where all the Rome 2 players were saying at this time that they were going to play Rome 2 for thousands and thousands of hours. They were ready. But what was the main problem? And second was one of the threads in the Total War forums back when people were still using it at that time. And someone said, "Will Rome 2 suck?" And we all laughed. Even I said, that's impossible. And ironically, on the 3rd of September, in the first few hours it was great, but from what I even recall at that time, the battles were very laggy. I didn't even play much. I can't even remember what happened on the 3rd of September 2013, but I can remember going to sleep and waking up the next day to play it and playing these epic style battles. But when I played it, Rome 2 didn't have that it didn't have it at that time. I became a fierce Rome 2 anti-critic. But over time, Rome 2 has won me. And I've enjoyed the battles, the amount of scale, the amount of stuff that you can do in this game. You know, it's one of the best games for historical simulation of the ancient world. Other games that have tried to break into this RTS genre have failed, that are seriously undermarketed, or are made as indie games, or is made as Imperator Rome, which I suspect was made to rival Rome 2, but it failed because it didn't have any role-playing elements. Now Rome 2 does have some role-playing elements, but that's basically they give you characters and then you role-play with them. But it isn't in-depth. It's not as in-depth as many other games that are set in classical antiquity should be. Rome 2 also has historical battles, but it pales in comparison to Rome's One's huge historical list of battles. And I definitely think they could have made a ton more historical battles. They could literally populate that historical battles map. They could literally sell more DLC. I want more DLC. I want Rome 2 to be examined. I want Rome 2 to be given more love and attention. But then that leads to the other argument. What will a Rome 3 look like? And where will it lead into? Because it will need more DLC than ever before. And Rome 2 does cost a lot. It's not cheap. It comes cheap maybe in discount sales. But, you know, Rome 2 also has one of the best moddable scenarios ever. You can literally go and download big overhaul mods. And, you know, my great YouTube friends, the Happy Compy Total War YouTuber channel, or the Terminator, they both do amazing mod spotlights. Andy's Take, who does fantastic videos on Rome 2 and mod spotlights. But I will also make one more argument. That Rome 2 needs a graphical upgrade. And I have to say, it needs a graphical upgrade on the scale of Troy. Troy is one of the most beautiful, stunning graphical campaigns you will ever see for a Total War game. And Rome 2 did look like that in 2013, but now it doesn't. I mean, Troy has so many improvements. In fact, Troy is amazing, even on its mythological mode, and I would seriously love a mythological mode for Rome 2. I mean, we had a nightmare mode for Rome 2. Why can't we get it in this one for a campaign? And one of the things Troy has is amazing lighting, especially during campaign night settings. And Troy also borrows from Three Kingdoms a real day lifetime cycle of night and day. And this is something that Rome 2 needs, I think, in my opinion. If Rome 2 is to be remastered in the future, or Rome 3 to come, it has to implement this feature from Three Kingdoms itself. That was carried on to Troy and Warhammer. But Warhammer doesn't even have a day-night cycle. So that sucks. But seriously, if you just observe for a second, you will instantly see that Troy not only has the benefit of a colorblind mode, but it has real day settings as well, so you can set it whenever in the morning, whenever you want, you know. And Troy also has a photo mode, and Rome 2 doesn't even have that. So this is a thing that I think really needs to be added in on the scale of what Troy Total War was in terms of the campaign map. And I definitely think that Rome 2 would benefit from such an upgrade. The legacy of Rome 2 is that it has created a new Roman era style game that everybody can play. You know, I suspect that one day my children will play Rome 2 in the same way that I did as a child when I played Rome 1. And when Rome 3 comes, and I sincerely hope that Rome 3 comes, but it won't come maybe in the next 5 to 10 years at the least. But the day it is announced, I am definitely getting Rome 3. But Rome 3 must not repeat the mistakes of Rome 2. That is the most basic thing that needs to be said. And Rome 2 has succeeded because CA pulled a no man's approach and basically revived this game to such an extent that it is better than what they did with Empire. Their Empire was just left, but Rome 2 was given the absolute love and attention, and the Rome 2 devs must be congratulated on making this game successful. I must say to CA, please add more DLC, as I really enjoyed this game. This isn't so much of a serious outlook on Rome 2, but it's just meant to say that look, Rome 2 has achieved so much. There are many people that still will never go back to Rome 2 because they brought into the marketing campaign, which literally was fantastic, but the marketing campaign oversold basically how many features weren't in Rome 2. And now Rome 2 is roughly at that stage, but it lacks immersive cutscenes, it lacks unique dialogue, it lacks immersive battle scenes in some areas, it lacks many historical battles. The Battle of Carhae, which was a playable battle in Rome 1, isn't even in this game. Or the Battle of Watling Street. It's stuff like this that I would like to see fully fleshed out. I still think Rome 2 has much to offer in the DLC department, and I would seriously love more Rome 2 DLC. But this is my appeal. If you don't like Rome 2, fine, that's your opinion. If you like Rome 2 and if you want a game in the Roman era, this is the game for you. And I'll just basically sign off by saying this. What Rome 2 has achieved is impeccable. It's achieved many, many great heights. There is a thriving multiplayer battle scene, and you can go and play and participate in tournaments via Discord. But this is what Rome 2 is. It's a gigantic, great campaign, great battles and such. Although Roman's roster is literally lackluster, and I believe that Rome 2 could have had a much bigger Roman roster. But for what it is, I think Rome 2 is fantastic. I think it's a great game, and I definitely think that Rome 2 is one of your games that you need to play. Plus, thousands of mods. The only last thing that I would add is that Rome 2 has over 5,000 mods or so. Maybe even 6,000. At one point, in 6 to 10 years, it will reach over 10,000 mods. But the main problem is Rome 2 doesn't have a TED or battle map editor or a campaign map editing tool, and I would seriously want this to happen. I also want Rome 2 to have a photo mode. A photo mode for Rome 2. A graphical upgrade for Rome 2. Because when you play the Rise of the Republic campaign, you can see all these temples and such. You don't get to see them in the Grand Campaign or in the Imperator Augustus campaign or in many of the campaigns, so I would want Rome 2 to be really overhauled, to such an extent that it's overhauled to a good degree. But, Rome 2 is Rome 2 and I've seriously enjoyed it. It's definitely a game that you should get on a Black Friday sale. Black Friday sale, I think Rome 2 is an absolutely fantastic purchase. It is one of the most easiest Total Wars to get involved in. For Rome 2 DLC, I would recommend Rise of the Republic, or Empire Divided, or even maybe Wrath of Sparta. Wrath of Sparta is one. But I would recommend these 3 DLCs. And I definitely would recommend the Desert Kingdoms DLC because it adds a lot of needed immersion to Rome 2, in a way. That being said, Rome 2 has definitely achieved an astounding amount of progress. It is a great game, and please don't forget to leave a like, share, comment and subscribe, as you will see me making more videos like this in the future. Thank you so much for listening to my video. Please enjoy.